building a customer base. That's the topic of our conversation today. And I know that this concept can be very intimidating for people who are first starting out or for people who have even a few years under their belt. So what I'm going to go through in this video is just fundamentals of building what we call a quality customer base. We're going to talk about the difference between quantity versus quality. Do things like giveaways work? Partnering with people who are like influencers? What are some more quality ways that we can build a customer base and so forth? So if you're someone who has been intimidated or struggled with this, I hope that you leave this video with a few tangible things that you feel like that you can do to really grow your customer base for next year. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Jessie. I live in Zone 7A in New Jersey, and I am entering into my third year of flower farming. I make YouTube videos focused on the business side of things because when I first started flower farming, I noticed that there was a gap in this type of information. It was information that I was looking for, but when I couldn't find it, I thought, hey, maybe I can help fill my gap or fill that gap as I progress through my flower farming journey. And I also do have a business and marketing background, so that's how we're here today. Now, this video is part 2 of a 3-part marketing series. The first video, we talked about marketing fundamentals. This one, we're talking about building a customer base. And then the last video, we are going to be talking about retaining and engaging that customer base, assuming that we've converted them into purchasers. So if you haven't seen the first video, I do recommend that you go back and watch it because there are some things from that video that I do talk about here, and each video ultimately built upon the prior videos. To start off talking about building a customer base, I think it's really important to lay out 2 things. One is that it takes time and it takes patience. Very rarely do people grow their customer bases overnight to thousands upon thousands of people and have those people who follow them, whether it's on social media or are just aware that they exist as a company or a brand. Very rarely do all of them then end up purchasing, right? So I think that some really good examples outside of flower farming are people go onto Shark Tank. They use that as like a form of advertisement. Yes, they broadcast this broad awareness, and then they also do get some people who purchase, but the majority of people who they end up broadcasting to just know about their brand and what they offer, but will never pull that buy button. And no matter how much they try to convert that person into a purchaser in the future, they will be unsuccessful because obviously, there's just like millions of people who watch Shark Tank, and that's like a very broad way of getting the message out. So in my view, unless if you have a free opportunity to do that, if you're spending your time and your money, you want to be a little bit more targeted. And that really does take a lot of time and patience, especially for something like flower farming, where most of the sales happen at a local neighborhood type of level, right? Like we're not talking about selling to people who are like 2-3 hours away, maybe up to an hour away. So we're talking about a pretty restricted geography, and that takes time to build. And it's a different type of building than if you were building, let's say, an e-commerce company where you can ship around the country. The second thing I want to say is that in order to build a customer base, you have to get comfortable with engaging and interacting with people. Now, the good news is that this engaging and interaction can be face-to-face, or it can also be virtual, so through email or through social media. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you need to invest some time into doing this. So a lot of us spend a lot of time growing, planning what we want to grow, and then even thinking about the sales outlets, but we haven't necessarily thought about investing the time to do this legwork in the grand scheme of marketing, right? So just this concept of figuring out what your brand stands for, this brand positioning piece, which I will talk about a little bit more in detail later on. I talked about that in video 1, but I got a lot of questions about that. So I do want to make sure that I talk about that a little bit more. So you got to spend time on that, but then you've also got to continue spending time to get more people to be aware about what you're doing, and then converting those people who are aware into purchasers. And that is going to be an investment of your time. So when people talk about spending time on marketing, that time goes into that marketing category or bucket that they're spending on. All right, so let's jump into meat of it in terms of building a customer base. Now, I think if I were to ask anyone, hey, what are some ideas on how one can build a customer base, we're probably all gonna come up with pretty similar ideas. In more recent years, because of social media, there are now a lot more ways to build a customer base. And I want to actually start off by addressing those because that really helps me talk about this quantity versus quality piece of building a customer base. So we've all seen people do giveaways, like giving away a bouquet or dahlia tubers, whatever it is. We've also seen people partner with influencers or people who have a lot of others following them and they have influence over their followers in terms of what those followers might purchase. So partnering with those people to hopefully get more followers for you and therefore more sales. So let's start with those because I've tried both of those, not in flower farming, but in my other small business. And I will say that it can work, but most of the times it doesn't. If you find the right type of influencer, meaning they have a following that is very very targeted for you in terms of the ideal flower purchaser, then yes, it can totally work. However, if you're looking to just get a bigger influencer to talk about you in a list of other products that they're giving away, stuff like that doesn't work, even though you might be gaining hundreds or thousands of additional followers. The other thing that people don't realize is that the algorithm, meaning the calculation or all of the little behind the scenes that Facebook and Instagram use to determine whether or not they want to serve content to you will get impacted if you have low quality followers. So if overnight you suddenly go from like 200 followers to 800 followers, and those followers do not engage in the content that you're putting on Facebook or Instagram, the algorithm will actually punish you by not showing your content to a broader group of people, including the people who they were showing content to you before. So you have to be really careful when you partner with other people who are influencers who promise you, hey, you're gonna get a lot more followers. It's not always about the follows. Now, on the flip side, there is something called social proof, which is very real. And social proof is this concept that the more people who you have following you, the more legitimacy that gives to your brand. So if we think about our personal situation, let's say you have like a really big anniversary coming up or something that you want to celebrate and you want to buy from a local small business for that occasion. That local small business has 15 followers, 0 reviews. Are you going to entrust this important event and into the hands of that small business? Some people might, but some people won't because they feel like, okay, I can't tell if this business is actually legitimate or not. So having a certain amount of followers, we'll call it in the high hundreds to thousands, does give a level of legitimacy. So I think that in certain aspect or certain times, if you're running a promotion like a free bouquet or whatever it is, just to get some more people following you because your numbers are low, that is actually not necessarily a bad thing to do. You just have to be intentional in terms of what you're trying to get out of it. I talked about giveaways, partnering with influencers, because in some ways those feel like the easier things to do in this day and age when we have social media at the ready of our fingertips. And look, social media is a free marketing tool and it can do wonders for your business if you know how to use it. I did have quite a few viewers who reached out asking me, hey, can you actually cover non-social media related ideas on how to build a customer base? And I think that was a really good call out because sometimes we forget that the most tried and true methods have existed for decades, if not centuries. And so the drawback with what I'm going to talk about is that they take time. They are a little bit more targeted and they do take time, but you are getting what we call quality people into your customer base or into the marketing funnel, as I referred to in the last video. So what does some of this look like? I think the most under leveraged resource that people don't utilize is their local community. So by virtue of being a small business, you're already giving back to your local community. You are in a really good position to be more involved. People forget that the people of most influence in their local communities can often be great advocates for their small businesses. So who am I talking about? Think about your local elected officials, council people, the fire chief, the police chief, even people who staff local elections. So if you think about the people who are really involved in the community, they know a lot of people, right? Like people often go to them for questions. They often look up to them as experts in the community. If they know about you and your flower farm and you've built a relationship with them, they can be really good advocates for you. So I'll give you an example, or I'll give you two examples. We know the former fire chief who happens to be one of our neighbors. And so the fire station was doing a fundraiser. So of course he knew about my flowers. I regularly give my neighbors free flowers. So they were like, Jesse, do you want to fund do you want to sell us centerpieces for this dinner that we're hosting for a fundraiser? And I was like, absolutely, but I'm not going to charge you guys for it. This is a really great opportunity to help fundraise for, and I'll just give you guys the centerpieces for free. I'll put my card on there, and that will also be marketing for me. So it worked out really well, and I got a couple of people who followed me from that event. And another example is showing up to a local election, because if you live in I would say like a suburban or a rural town, those tend to be staffed by people who are retired, who have a lot of time on their hands, and who are honestly a really good demographic for flowers. So I sold 2 CSA subscriptions by showing up to a local election where the person who was running uncontested. So there's obviously some time to chat. People had already recognized that, hey, I was the flower girl in the community, right? So all of this builds upon one another. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you need to get your name out there to your local community, and you need to start first by the people who are most active in your local community. Another great type of crowd to talk to in your local community is other fellow small businesses. There's no one who loves to promote another small business than a fellow small business owners. I can't tell you how many times I've had other small businesses pick up bouquets from me and then immediately post in the town Facebook pages talking about my bouquets, and how many additional followers that gets, right? So at the end of the day, you can go out and talk to these small business owners. And if you don't know what to say, or you don't have flowers, say something along the lines of, hi, my name is Jessie. I actually moved here last year to start a flower farm. We are growing on X amount of square feet, and I'm so excited to be able to offer the local community flowers. I saw that you've been around for 5 years and you've been doing really well. I was wondering if you would be willing to meet me for coffee on me so that I could pick your brain about what you've done, and like, are there any other organizations who you might partner with, who you would suggest for me, right? Like, use this as an opportunity to ask them to share their wisdom and how they've become successful in your community. Because the other thing that people love is they love sharing how they've become successful. So use that as an opportunity to engage and build a relationship. Businesses that I would start off with are obviously cafes, because they could be partners for you in terms of selling bouquets or CSA pickup sites. But go out of the box. Think about like dance studios, right? Think about music recital or like music lesson studios, right? Because like all of these places ultimately will have recitals. And what do parents bring to recitals, especially dance recitals? They bring flowers. So could you partner with the dance studio to provide recital bouquets, right? Like, there's just so many different combinations of how things can turn out if you build the right type of relationships with these small businesses. Are you a parent? Are you a mom, a dad? Do you belong to a PTA? Does your kid play soccer, dance, whatever it is? Are you often finding yourself in a group of parents? another great opportunity here, right? Because teams are always looking to fundraise. Instead of fundraising with something that comes from a large corporation, could they potentially use your flowers, something that is local and giving back to a small business, to fundraise for their efforts? And typically people are a lot more excited about fundraisers for things like that, right? They're buying a product that is actually within the community and then fundraising for a team. So I find that even the people who are fundraising have more motivation to fundraise when it's a really great product like that. But do you often go to a school? Does your child have teachers? What I do is I try to regularly bring bouquets in for my daughter's daycare teachers. And if I can, I bring more bouquets than the teachers who she has so that other teachers can have it. And it is never with the expectation that I want them to buy from me. This is truly a thank you gift for all the stuff that they put up with our kids. And I can tell you that it always causes it always starts a conversation, not just between the teachers, but even with parents who eventually come pick up or drop off their kids and see the flowers. So my flowers and my local flower farm are getting talked about within the local community because they see my flowers in an unexpected location. And inevitably, it will convert to sales. So I've had 2 of my daughter's daycare teachers reach out asking if they could have tulips. This stuff takes time, right? Like, my daughter started daycare back in August. I brought a couple of bouquets. They had lilies. You know, lilies are not always the favorites of people, but when they heard I had tulips, they're like, oh my God, I love tulips, right? So again, frequency as well as repetition here is important because sometimes people are just waiting for that season of their favorite flowers before they want to purchase from you. I would also say that targeted generosity can also go a long way. And when I say targeted generosity, I mean not necessarily just donating bouquets that you cannot sell or sloppy seconds here, right? Like, don't get me wrong. If your bouquets are going to compost and they still have a good vase life within them, it is still a really great thing to donate them. But if you set aside a certain amount of bouquets for donation deliberately and you're targeting what that donation looks like, it can also give you some in return. So this year, what I really want to do is I actually want to donate bouquets to our local food pantry. And this is not necessarily, again, to generate sales, because the people who are going to the food pantry obviously don't even have enough money to buy food, let alone flowers, right? But one thing that you have to remember about flowers that no other product or few other products have is the emotion that flowers can evoke. Oftentimes, products can only rely on what we call features and benefits to sell itself. Like, what makes this product so much better than the next that I would go to that, right? Flowers are different here because even though we have features and benefits of local, meaning they're fresher, they'll last longer, flowers also evoke emotion. So I was listening to a podcast with Lenny Larkin from B.a.r.e Flower Farms, and she was talking about how she basically got priced out of California and how to move up to Oregon to restart her flower farm. And building that customer base was a little bit harder than what she remembered. And one of the things that she did was she made like 50 bouquets and planned to drive around a local neighborhood and drop off a free bouquet and give information that, hey, like, I'm gonna have a flower subscription or a CSA later on. She ended up dropping, I think it was like 10 bouquets and didn't even get to meet people, but put her information there. Later on, she's doing her CSA route and happens to be in front of this house that she recognizes. And she's like, oh my God, I dropped a free bouquet here. And she talked to that person, and that person said, oh my God, I was having the crappiest days, and then you left your flowers here and it totally just brightened my day and made my day so much better. I don't even buy flowers, but now I buy flowers because of that one day and how those flowers made me feel, right? Like, think about it. There are so few other products that can do that, right? So if you have the ability to give your bouquets to those who you think can actually evoke, or for whom the flowers can evoke that kind of emotion, I would totally do it. And again, this is not for a short-term ROI for you to say, hey, like, this person's gonna come back and purchase me. But I guarantee you, when that person is doing better financially and is able to have some more discretionary spending, they might remember your flowers, or there might be a special occasion where they say, hey, like, I want to treat myself to flowers, or I want to buy someone flowers. I'm gonna go to this farm, they're local, I've had experience with them, and their flowers totally made my day in a way I know that it's gonna improve someone else's day, right? So that is also another thing that I think is overlooked. Oftentimes when we donate, we kind of donate in haste. We're like, oh, let me just donate to the nursing home, which look, it could still give you an opportunity to create a customer base. I just think that sometimes we can do a better job if we're intentional about it. Now, I know it might feel intimidating for some people to get out there, talk to strangers, and really network face to face. So if you're someone who is more of an introvert and that really scares you, you can do some of this stuff behind the scenes, but I would say that you would need to embrace social media as a viable tool for you to do this. Some ways to get started are on Facebook, especially through Facebook groups. Local communities, towns, parents, moms, they all usually have some sort of Facebook group, right? So you could search mom to mom group, you can search your local town name, community page, and those are really good places to get started because you've got a large pool of people who live around you all going into the same group to seek answers for questions that they might have. Common questions that I see are recommendations for local dentists. Sometimes I even see questions around where can I get the best chicken parmesan, right? So it's all out there in terms of the range of questions. I've even seen questions around who would you recommend for a local florist. So in that situation, if you stay engaged on these pages and people ask about flower specific stuff, you would be able to go in and market your flower farm. But a lot of these pages also offer the opportunity for small businesses to do their marketing. Now, typically this is on a certain day of the week or a certain day of the month, or they have a specific thread where small businesses can post on that thread so that way their members don't get spam. This is a really good way to get the word out there. I have actually gotten a really good targeted following from just posting on here. The key is to not abuse it. You don't want to be posting on there every single week. I think once a quarter is pretty appropriate, especially when you know that you're about to get stems and you want them to move. So for example, I posted last year that I had winter tulips. I posted later in the year that I had a flower subscription. And then I posted when I launched my winter tulip subscription, basically earlier in the fall. And in all three instances, I always got more followers on my Facebook page as well as immediate purchasers. And I find that those people who follow me do really have a high level of interest, which is good because then it means that it's easier for me to convert them down the line. Now, another thing that people do on social media is they post to Facebook Marketplace, and this is less around the part of the funnel where you're trying to cultivate awareness and get people into your funnel. This is when people are going straight to the bottom of the funnel. Now, when you post on Facebook Marketplace, you are also inevitably telling people that you exist as a flower farm and that you have flowers to sell. What I find is that the quality of those people who you attract is typically not the type of people who you want, because who goes onto Facebook Marketplace? People who want discounts, people who are looking for something that might be secondhand, but they're not looking to pay full price. So not a bad option if you have an obscene amount of stems that you want to move. Earlier in the year, I had what I called tulip hell. I just had thousands of tulips blow open in the field because it was so hot for like 3 days in a row. And I did use Facebook Marketplace to effectively move them. But the people who bought them because I gave a really good deal, and none of those people ever came back to buy from me at full price, right? So just think about the quality of the people who you might attract based off of what you're doing. And this kind of goes back to the giveaway piece that I talked about earlier, right? Like if you do a giveaway, yes, you are definitely going to be attracting people who love flowers and may purchase full price from you, but you will also probably attract people who really don't have any interest in buying flowers from you. They're just interested in free things, right? So I feel like that happens less on a local level, but it definitely happens more on a national level if you've got a product that you can ship around. So just things for you to think about. Now, the good news is that when you've put in the time and effort to cultivate and build this customer base and you get the right type of people in there, you will inevitably have advocates. And advocates are the best type of people you could have because not only are they customers, but they tell everyone else about you. And this is the last marketing fundamental that I want to talk about before we talk about brand positioning, because word of mouth is the best effective form of marketing. It is just so much more reliable and reputable to get a recommendation from someone you know than from any other advertisement that you might see out there. So if you've got a few people who absolutely love your product, what I do is I actually consistently sell them that product at a discount because I know they're going to be gifting my product for whatever occasion it is, and they're going to buy more from me, and they're basically like a walking billboard for me, right? So I do have a person in my local community who gifts my flowers on a regular occasion. Like we're talking about weekly, buying a couple of bouquets and giving it to other members in the community. And that's how I've also gained other CSA subscribers as well as a la carte orders. So bouquets for this person are always $15 because I know that at the end of the day, she's actually marketing for me, right? So think strategically about your regulars and how they're using those bouquets and how they can also build a customer base for you. So that leads me now to this final topic of brand positioning, and it is very relevant in this situation because a good brand position will naturally attract people into your customer base or your marketing funnel, and it will attract the right type of people as well as people who are most likely to purchase. So again, brand positioning is communicating this unique value that your brand or small business has that few others have, right? Or at least few others in your local vicinity have. So I think that this is a really hard concept for some people to grasp. So let me give you a couple of tangible examples using like everyday items that have a lot of competition out there. So it should be no surprise to people who have been following me that sustainability is something that is really important to myself and my husband, Eric. So when we go out shopping, we try to cut down on the amount of plastic that we use. Hand wash is a really good example here, right? My other side hustle is a bar soap company. So we do use bar soap in most parts of the house, except for in the kitchen area where bar soap does tend to get a little bit gunkier. So in that case, we do buy hand soap. Now, hand soap, obviously we run through it pretty frequently and we don't want to continue replacing the bottle. So we love buying hand soap that comes in those bags where you can refill multiple bottles before the bag is thrown away. So when I go to Target, the only part of the shelf that I'm looking at is where are all those refillable bags? I don't care how pretty your packaging is on a bottle. I don't care if it's completely all natural and all of these other benefits. I am laser focused on finding the product that fits my values first, which is that it is sustainable, right? So in this case, by virtue of offering a very specific product that caters to a value that I have, they don't need to do any other marketing to me. They've already got me. And there are few other competitors who play in that space that I only have like 2 options to choose from when I'm at Target. So that's one example. Another example is coffee. Eric and I are really into coffee. We buy whole beans and then we grind them. And not only do we buy whole beans, we try to source specialty coffee. And in the world of coffee, there's like a huge spectrum from like very, we'll call it cheap coffee, right? The coffee that you find at gas stations to very high-end coffee. And there are so many players within each of those spaces. So it is really easy for us to source specialty coffee beans or single origin coffee beans. You might have heard of that term. But the point is that we ended up sourcing our coffee beans from a roaster that is in Pennsylvania. So I think they're about an hour away if we drive. We do get those beans shipped to us. But the reason why we source from them is because they are sustainably roasted. They are roasted on a electrical roaster that emits no VOCs. I didn't even know that that was a thing until they started talking about it. And it also has 0 emissions. So just something that I had never even thought about, but once I heard that message, it clicked, right? So even though I could go down the street and buy coffee from a specialty coffee shop just 15 minutes away, I choose to support this small business because their values directly align with mine. They didn't have to do anything else other than tell me about their sustainability values, and automatically I became a customer. So this is what I'm saying. The power of having a value-based type of positioning versus selling features and benefits is really, really powerful. Features and benefits in the flower farming world would be local, so therefore very fresh, long vase life, right? These are all things that we expect local flowers to have. Can you have something that is added on top of that? Let me give you a couple of examples of what that could look like. Specialization, right? Specialization is a very sought after value, right? Like, can you specialize in dahlias? Maybe you grow the best ranunculus, the best lisianthus, right? Like, if you do something really, really well, that definitely also provides value. The other thing is, like, could you do something with education, right? There's a farm down the street from me that sells meat. Across the street is another farm that sells meat. I actually prioritize trying to go to one of the farms because they really try to reinvest back in the community through educating children. They believe that using their farm for tours, story time, visits is a really good way of getting children to experience the outdoors and get them a little bit more in tune with nature in a world where screen time dominates most of children's times, right? Like, that is a really worthy cause in my view, and sets them apart from other farms. So think about unique things that you can do. Maybe you can provide a really unique experience when it comes to pickup, right? Like, my house is not structured in a way where I can do that. I also don't really want people on my property, but successful farm stands make it an experience to come out and buy a bouquet, because you're not actually going out to buy a bouquet. You're going out to take a picture, to experience the beauty of flowers, and then you're coming home with the bouquet. So what is that value, that special value that you can offer? So that way, when another flower farm potentially starts up about 5 miles away from your house, you've already got this special value that people see you for, and therefore they are more likely to go to you and buy flowers versus another flower farm. 2 questions that you might ask yourself when it comes to figuring out what your brand positioning looks like is, what are your personal values? And the second question is, how can those personal values tie into your flower farming business? I'm going to wrap up by saying that there are plenty of small businesses, big businesses, brands out there who never have a good brand positioning, and they do fine. They do fine either because they've put in a lot of work to attract customers and to buy, or they've done a really good job on selling their products and features, and it's a or their features and benefits, and it's a product where there's not a ton of competition out there. Flowers inherently have a lot of competition. I would say that even though there are different price points for flowers and different qualities of flowers, sometimes we can get away with just being local and longer lasting. But as there are more flower farms around us and people who are chasing after the same retail customer, brand positioning might be something that you want to think about, because if you can communicate your value and what you stand for in an eloquent and easy to understand manner, the customers will come to you versus you trying to find those customers. So if we think about one of the most famous flower farms out there, Floret, and we ask ourselves, what is Floret's brand positioning? I think a lot of us can arrive at the same conclusion. Erin's actually said it before. She said, my goal is to spread beauty through flowers. And I think that as time has progressed and she's done 2 seasons of filming growing Floret, she's realized that she wants to leave a legacy through flowers. And I would argue that one of her biggest legacies to date is the generous knowledge that she shares with everyone. Prior to her sharing this kind of knowledge, a lot of this knowledge was really passed down between generations or between farms who knew each other, but she really opened it up in a way that was accessible to everyone. So everyone sees her for her generosity and for her deep knowledge of flowers, right? So This is probably something that she never even intentionally sought out to do from a brand positioning perspective. She fell into it, but the point is that people recognize her as that. There are plenty of other flower farms out there who have specialized or who we recognize them as standing for something specific, either in terms of value or a product or a service that they offer. So I think that was a lot in a single video. We talked about building a customer base, both using traditional ways and newer ways through social media. We talked about the difference between quality versus quantity and trying to balance the both, but ultimately prioritizing quality because that just makes it a lot easier for us to get the types of customers that we want later down the road. And then we talked about this concept of really thinking about what your farm stands for and its brand positioning. So that's a lot to noodle on if you are a new flower farmer or you've been doing this for a couple of years but haven't really been thinking about marketing. I think the one thing that I want people to take away from this is that marketing goes beyond pretty photos and just making cards and trying to post on social media. Marketing is so much more than that, right? People often think about marketing as just what is the flashy parts that I can put out about my farm and attract people. Marketing is really about cultivating relationships, and it's about nurturing those relationships so that you can get those people to purchase from you not just once, but multiple times again and again. So the best businesses are the ones who have nailed this down. And the earlier you can start working on this, the better equipped you are in terms of running a more profitable flower farm. So I would love to know if you have any questions in the comments below. I will have a part 3. I also have a Patreon where for $5 a month, you get access to content that will accompany this video. And we also now have a private Facebook group where then we can chat on a much smaller scale about topics like this. So again, let me know if you have any questions and I will see you in the next video.